I was blinking at you.
Was it saying no signal?
What does that red thing say?
That's to stop it. Stop. That's when I turn it off. We're live. Oh, it's still messing around. Close is probably rubber.
No, it's
Sounds like you're in a boat.
Well, they might be.
Big waves.
See, this is graduation week.
Right.
Isn't it?
Yeah, she just finished yesterday. Did you get through graduation all right?
My nephew graduated from medical school this year.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So,
This is graduation week.
But you see, we cried and cried.
today's lesson,
Been there.
for those of you joining in with us today, is from the book of Proverbs, chapter 31. And the lesson is entitled Treasure Mothers. And today is Mother's Day, by the way. So, happy Mother's Day to all of you. In this lesson, those of us that were in the service this morning, it's like Gerald told me this morning, when we got here, just say ditto and we'll be finished. Because the sermon is, you haven't been there yet, have you?
No, I'm going next.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
It was nice.
This doesn't give
It
you
was
a
really
license. I'll
nice.
go now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Brother Rick.
I'm your
so
substitute
good about
teacher. I can do
my
anything I want.
I was telling her.
Oh, okay.
She's still
I'm going. I'm going to go.
All right.
I promise.
You're going to be standing.
And the question here that opens up this lesson, it says, what do I treasure most about my mom? My mother. What do I treasure most about my mother? I don't know.
birth to
It's,
you.
it's usually so much stuff, it's hard to narrow stuff down. And for us whose moms are still alive, we don't, I mean, we appreciate them and love them to death, and we know all the great things, but it's the ones where your moms have been gone probably for some time
Yeah.
that
Hard.
you
I have two
you
moms
reflect.
gone away.
Now you reflect, don't you? You know? Have you caught yourself being like them?
No, we don't do that.
Oh, I do. I'm becoming my mother.
Of course.
Yeah.
We all became
I'm
our
sorry,
mother
Miss
when we had children.
Yeah.
So, now, of course, I said our lesson is in Proverbs, and it starts out, it says, for their diligence. There's a lot of reading here. I'll go ahead and read this first part. It says, for their diligence, Proverbs 31:10 through 19. And those of us that were in the service already, it's a repeat a little bit of what he read in our sermon. It says, who can find a capable wife? And she is far more precious than jewels. And the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will not lack anything good. She rewards him with good, not evil, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with willing hands, and she is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from far away. She rises while it's still night, provides food for her household and portions for her female servants. She evaluates the field and buys it. She plants a vineyard with her earnings. She draws on her strength and reveals that her arms are strong. She sees that her profits are good and her lamp never goes out at night. And she extends her hands to the spinning staff and her hands hold the spindle. On and on.
A woman's work is, a mother's
Never
work is
done.
never done.
What translation is that?
What does it say?
It's a lot different from the.
Probably the Southern. I do not know. I read it out the book.
Well,
Where did it mess up?
Well,
it
I'm not
messed
doing
up in
that.
verse 10, in my opinion. I think you said something about finding a capable woman.
This says who can find a capable wife.
Well,
Which
either
one?
one.
Proverbs
What does it say?
This is who can find a virtuous woman.
Virtuous.
A person
Oh
who
my.
is capable
Oh, good point.
Oh, yes.
not
Yeah.
virtuous
What does
at
yours say?
all.
Big difference
Who can
between
find a
those two
virtuous
words.
woman for her price is far
That is
above
bad.
rubies?
You need to study
Capable.
this sometime. Did you know a ruby of the same size and quality is more valuable than a diamond? Everybody wants a diamond.
Really?
And it says the price is far above rubies. Doesn't say diamonds, it says rubies.
Yeah, I remember
Rubies are
reading
more
that
valuable.
now. But I didn't
This says
catch that
rubies, too.
capable
Yeah.
part. That's a big deal.
That's a bad. Is that Holman Christian Standard?
I don't know. It doesn't ever
It
say.
doesn't say. I've been
Well, it's
looking
got,
just
I'm sure
now.
it says somewhere, but I don't know. So,
It has to say.
That's
Yeah,
an excellent
capable and
point.
virtuous
Can I
is
see your
different.
shopping? I don't know where.
Yeah.
Can you hold it way out so I
I
can
guess I'm
see
just
it?
checking.
That'll get better as you get older. Yeah, mine used to be out here and it's coming
Well, it
closer.
says jewels, so It says jewels, not, this
But
one
the
doesn't say
King James,
diamonds.
King
It says-
James version is rubies.
I'll put ruby.
Yeah, this says rubies right here.
Okay.
Did you
And it
make a
says
note of
That's a
that?
writing.
Virtuous,
I'll
not
have them correct
capable.
that.
You correct that?
Big difference.
Okay,
Between
the next
the two.
revision. Yeah. But anyway,
That's just my opinion.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
I do concur. Or their diligence. And now this tells you all the great things that well, I'll say that a mom does on a daily basis. And to them, I don't feel qualified to say this, but I believe any mom would just say, well, that's just normal routine right there. That's no big deal. You know, that I do this stuff. Yeah, I never thought about it.
Well,
Never wrote it down.
Part says she rises while it is still night.
It's before daylight.
I
Yeah.
know.
Maybe, well, when,
Maybe
she does when you're an
someday.
infant.
Yeah,
When,
that's
when the
true.
baby's an
When the
infant, you're
baby's
right,
a-
you're
yeah.
getting up in the middle.
You're getting up during the middle of the night.
well,
That's
thank the
true.
Lord Jesus that he, yeah.
I did that.
I did that too. Mhm. It wasn't for a long time, but I did it.
Now,
Yeah, me too.
let me. Mary Beth brought up a point to me this morning, and she said, "Let's go back to Genesis." And I wanted to just for a second. Where is Genesis 5? I don't know, backs up to 4.
I
Oh,
got,
where is it?
I got,
Where it
Go
starts? The creation, chapter 2.
yeah,
It's in chapter 2 of Genesis, where God says, this is after Adam has named everything, and it's pretty much God says, okay, you're in charge. You are the manager of this garden. And he brought him, it looks like he gave names to everything. He says, and God says, okay, those are going to be the names from now on.
that's
And I like that. God was using Adam here. Adam was in charge, and I think God allowed Adam to have full reign of what was going on his earthly creation at that time. I believe Adam was in complete control. He was the GM
He
of
was
earth.
head of the household.
Well, there wasn't one yet.
Yeah, there wasn't,
Oh, not yet.
There wasn't one. And it says in 2 and 20, and the man gave names to all the cattle and to the birds of the sky and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helper suitable for him. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon man. And he slept. And then took one of his ribs, of course we know this, and closed up the flesh at that place. And the Lord God fashioned into woman the rib which he had taken from the man and brought her to the man. And the man said, this is now bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh, and she shall be called, whoa, man,
so, whoa, man.
because she was taken out of man. For this cause a man shall leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Now, this part kind of confuses me right here, because what reference did he have other than, I'm guessing that the animals here now, the animals were reproducing,
companion.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not yet, I don't
Well,
guess. I don't
I
think
don't know.
yet. I think, because that's where he says, go into the world and multiply. 16, unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception.
Well, that's after.
But then, right, but,
Yeah.
well, anyway. Okay. So I don't know, you may be right.
Oh, so Adam didn't know
Well,
what that meant, leaving mother and father.
yeah, I'm saying, where's that reference?
That's interesting.
I think if Adam
I never
was-
thought about that
Yeah.
before.
I think if Adam
Yeah.
was sharp enough to name all the animals in the world, he could figure out what to do with his shipmate.
Well, no, he's saying about that leave the mother
the
and
mother
the
and the
father.
father.
So Adam didn't have a mother and a father, and he was created by God. That makes sense.
So he made this statement. Oh, okay, here's a woman. So because of her, let's create families, and family needs to be where the offspring make their own. And
So I see
and
what
he
you're
says
saying.
all of that. Like, well, where'd that come from? How'd you know that?
So you're saying if he saw animals multiply, then that's what,
That's my reference.
Well, he was
That would
in
be good.
complete fellowship with the Lord.
right.
And you know, the Lord came down every day and walked with them through the garden.
Mhm.
And so I feel like he had his spirit.
So
And he knew exactly.
I think God was telling it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
well,
you're
no
right.
doubt about that. But
There was no confusion.
I please don't
Yeah.
misunderstand me. And this may sound, hope I don't sound like a adolescent here, but do you think during their conversations, Adam, seeing the rest of the animal kingdom producing, asked God, like, hey, what are they doing? What's going on here? And God had to explain, I had the birds and
Probably.
bees talk with Adam?
Yeah, probably. The birds and
I
the
would
bees.
think. I mean, it's a natural thing, but if you've never had and seen,
I think,
yeah, you're
I think
right.
God told him
That
everything.
makes sense. That
No,
makes sense. I didn't even
I-
think about
I
it.
just think he instinctively knew.
I have never had a client of an limited ability that couldn't figure out how their body parts work.
Well,
Yeah, I think it's an instinct.
but okay, but Gerald, you got to go back to like before there was no female, and now all of a sudden here she is in front of you, and he names her, like, whoa, you're different. I'll call you, whoa, man. And then because of this uniqueness, we will have offspring, and then they will have their own.
Well,
But
let me
they
ask
were
you this.
perfect.
Yeah.
They were perfect. So
They were perfect.
they knew.
Well, the other
They're
thing
new.
is, when they created animals, did he create all the male animals, or did he create male and female animals?
I believe.
Do you see what I'm
Remember in
saying?
the ark, when he
2 by
told them
2.
to bring them into art, male and female?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but that
Then
was in.
I know that I believe they
Yeah.
were created male and
I
female.
do too.
No, I
Yeah.
mean I do too. But what I'm saying
If
is,
he didn't, you're getting pretty close to evolution.
Right.
Right.
but no. Well, I understand what you're saying.
Let me pull it up, I didn't forget. In verse 18, God said, "It is not good that man should be alone." There are some churches that need to remember that God said, at least in a general way, it's not good for man to be alone. We wouldn't have some problems in some churches if they remembered not to try to make eunuchs of men who are not gifted in that area.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay?
Mhm.
And then so God says, I will make him an helpmeet for him. And when God made the helpmeet, he made a woman
Mhm.
for the man. He did not make another man. He did not make another animal. He made a woman.
Right.
This is established in Genesis 2.
Yeah, right from the get-go there. And
Right.
point well taken. I'm glad you did that.
Two things right
Right.
there that it's amazing what's in this book if you really study it.
If you want to cry today, it's a statewide newspaper and look on the front page.
I know.
So the thing is, it's a helpmate. It's not necessarily, because I want to make sure this is what you're saying. This is the way I understand it. A helpmeet or helpmate, it wasn't necessarily for the multiplication or, for people to procreate. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not just about procreation, it's about a helpmate who can help that person, even the differences of a woman. A woman's in her nature is nurturing and all of those qualities, characteristics of a woman to help a male. It's not what a male and a male to help each other. It was a female. I'm talking about the emotional point and the physical point.
In other words, God made them different so they could complement
Complement
each other,
Perfect.
and it
Yes.
made a perfect union.
So what I'm getting at is because of the way our society is,
Yeah.
I'm in love with, if there's a man and a man, that's not what God made, a man and a man. It's man and a woman to complement each other.
Helpmeet, I read somewhere it could be translated a helper suitable for him.
Yeah. Right.
And so if he needs a helper suitable for him, that's me.
That's a woman.
It's a
It's
woman.
not
It's a
another
woman.
man.
Right.
Okay.
Helpmate really means they counterbalance.
The counterbalance.
Heresy
Okay.
is truth out of balance.
Mhm.
And so women see things that men are totally oblivious to.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
if the world ran on the emotions of women, the human race would not exist because we would have killed each other a long time ago.
Ow.
So
That hurt. No,
That
that's
hurt.
absolutely true.
You're
I
right.
completely understand that.
somewhere in any organization, somebody has to be the head. Not because I was born a man, but don't ever go in partnership with anybody in business on a 50-50 basis.
Right.
Somebody has to finally say, we ain't going that way.
Right.
You know, your idea won't fly. We're going to stick with what we've been doing. If it's 50-50, you got to fight. And so all of us have children, and the mother sees children differently the way the father does. The father can write you off. After a while, it's just finished. I'm not putting up this anymore. But the mother always said, let's give him another chance.
Mm-hmm.
They don't give up.
Yeah.
And so that's some of the
That's a very good
balance.
point.
That's true.
I explained
Moms
this
never
one
give
time
up.
when I was teaching, one of the boys says, are you saying my wife is just a lug nut on the tire here because I use it as, you ever driven a car where the tires were out of balance? But if you put the weight in the right place, it runs smooth.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the way it is between men and women.
That makes sense.
And so
And-
the last point that Rick made in his sermon was about prayer, and I thought of an old country boy that preached there one time. He says, if a kid doesn't learn to pray at his mother's knee, he probably won't learn at any other joint either. So,
Wow, I like that.
You know, and I was trying to connect
Yeah.
this first part, you know, this first part that we read here, and it described kind of a daily routine for what her mother does, and it is, you know, very involved. And I was trying to relate that to Eve, because I believe Eve kind of took up that role as well. She probably did all these things as she became first mother on the planet, and I do believe that she did all of these things. As she raised children. No, it doesn't. The Bible doesn't go into very much detail at all on their families, how much family they had, as you know, as far as not much detail.
Well,
Although,
okay, as a young woman getting married, and having children, she doesn't have an instruction book.
Right. Nothing to go by.
It's instinctive.
Mhm.
You just know.
Mhm.
And
that's the gift
so
that
Eve
God
had
gave.
yes, it's God given.
that's interesting. I had a client that ended up with a child. She lived out here in Rivendell, and I went out there. The social worker says, this girl has no motherly instinct.
Mhm.
This child is just an object. Only time I've ever heard about it. But most of us have heard that story. Rick says when his grandkids get a scraped knee or something, they want their mother. But see if this ever happened to you, when the child really got hurt, or when the situation was really bad, did they want their mother or their father? Now, the first time that Jean ever drove in snow, I guess our daughter was, I mean, she's talking good, but Jean got it off, and she quietly said, I want my daddy. And our oldest grandson got scalded that. He poured some boiling water off and get him all down him. And he got him to Joan's Hospital, and I sat out there in that waiting room, I know, for 3 hours. And finally my son came out, and he said, I wanted to come out sooner, but he would not turn loose my finger. He didn't want his mother, he wanted his dad. And this was a 2-year-old that wasn't even talking. And so the role of parents are different. When a child wants protection because things are bad,
They go their
that
dad.
defends you, but they don't want their mother. They want
Sure.
somebody big
And they
and
want
strong.
Strong.
That makes sense.
And
Right.
they just sense this as small children. Now, when they're teenagers, they might just have one parent as the other.
That makes sense.
But this is the way God made us, and when you get away from this pattern, you get away from this behavior, you have problems. Does our society have problems this year?
But we say that,
Because of single parent families.
we say that, in fact, I saw on TV 2 or 3 times this week, that children do not come with an instruction book. Y'all,
It does too.
Yeah.
I mean, just start in Genesis 1 and go from there.
Yeah.
And we just need to.
That's excellent. This next part is called For Their Companions. For their
Compassion.
compassion. I looked at that word and looked at it, and that's not right. Proverbs. Are you there, Gene? Are you at 31:20?
31:20.
Would you read that? And I'll not use the book.
Okay. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all of her household are clothed with scarlet. I remember one time I was afraid of snow.
I don't think it says that in there, Gene.
But I remember we lived in Little Rock and the children were very young, and I think I'd gone to Weingarten, which was there at the time, corner of Asher University, and it was turning cold, bad cold, and I realized my children were not prepared for the cold. I don't know what, and I think every time I read that, I think, oh, there was one time, but they weren't every time after that, I promise you. Yeah, how far in?
Well, you went too far already.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, there is just one verse in this whole part, it's verse 20. And yeah, she reaches out to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. So besides, in also supplementing her daily routines as described in the first part, she is full of compassion and also doing her part for charity as well, reaching out to others. And this is this is an attribute that all people should have, as far as being able to want to reach out. And it needs to be almost, it should be second nature. And not like, well, I'm going to plan on being more helpful to the needy. I'm just going to make that a goal this week, and I'm going to make a plan, and here's my plan. Well, I think it needs to be a little more seamless than that.
That's okay, though. There's nothing wrong with planning.
Well, certain you could, yeah, I'll give you that. But I think if you have to think about being more helpful, maybe you're not anyway.
It's like if you see an accident, your first instinct is to go and check on that person.
Instead of just rubbernecking.
Going, oh, well, they'll be all right.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
And unconsciously thinking, oh, better you than me.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Dr. Mark's right behind me. Or something.
Exactly. Let Dr. Mark do it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the cold, we saw an accident happen in front of us, and Andy immediately pulled over, and it was ice. It was all ice. And we were on this big curve. And so we jump, Andy and I both jump out, and both of our kids are in the back car, and we locked it up, jumped out, and then we're realizing we're looking back, and here are all these cars coming on this curve, and it's icy, and we're both of our heart dropped because we're like, they're going to be right there. They're going to be hit. So we immediately ran to the car, after we made sure that guy was all right, and it was like, we got to get out of this curve because they're going to be right the next one. So, yeah.
I know,
It was scary.
I don't know why I thought about this, but you guys, when you're going down the freeway, down the interstate, I just feel like when I see a highway patrolman parked on that inside median next to that concrete wall, I thought, why do you guys park right there?
That's scary.
That is a terrible place, in my opinion.
It's scary.
For them to
They
sit.
could be hit.
You're sitting up against that concrete wall. You're toast.
Yeah.
I thought somebody like, well, you know how we get going down the highway.
Yeah. Not focused.
And your first thing, like if you're in an emergency situation, you're going to hit that median.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just.
College State Police Headquarters.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, why are they doing that?
think about something like that, but who knows?
Anyway, yeah,
It's
it's
scary.
just something I always wondered about that. That seems bad. But anyway,
That's all well.
the moms do reach out and help. I think again, let me just say, Janet, I believe that might be part of women's nature that God gave them, is to a compassionate heart, not just for their friends, for their children, but maybe for mankind.
Yeah.
And Gerald, I'll go so far as to say, you mentioned that if women were in charge of the world, it would be a bad thing. Also, I think at the same time, let's just say if they were in positions of authority that they might be sometimes a little too lenient because of this nature that we have, and make a bad decision based more on emotion than factual. And I'm just saying that. That's just off the top of my head. I don't know.
I don't mean to be a male chauvinist, but one of God's judgments is women places of leadership. You read the 3rd chapter of the book of Isaiah on this chapter.
Yeah.
Because you see the problem with military is our military is just going to punt because we have somebody who doesn't say we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Come hell or high water, we're going to stand up for principle, and that's the only way you have respect.
Right.
That's in Isaiah 3, verse 12. God is talking about his people. As you want to read the interesting chapter, just take the whole chapter. As for my people, children are their oppressors. Children rule in places today, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee, cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. Now, I'm not saying that women should not ever head anything, but as a general rule, God wants the males in charge, and I want the males in charge.
That's why I don't want a female president. Go on record to say that. I want a man.
And you know, but it is to me it's a little ironic though that if you look at the state of Israel, that's its history since it became a state since the 40s. Some of its very strong, powerful leaders were female.
Yeah.
And the world will look at that and go, see, they make great leaders.
Sheba was,
Well,
you know, I mean, I don't know.
I'm not saying they don't, but I see, your
I
directions
think
there.
if you are a woman, and if you go by God's, you'll seek counsel. I mean, God tells us to seek counsel and everything. But through His Word, that's what I mean. So I think if because we could come across saying that's very sexist, but
Well,
I understand what they're saying.
Call it what you will.
A man is the head of the household.
Mhm.
And I was
They
brought up in
should-
different
they should
faiths, and I
step up to be the leader.
totally believe that. Well, God tells us too that a man is going to be held accountable for leading his family or not leading his family. So,
Well, I believe that in times when there is no man
right.
to be in control, then God will raise up.
Right, I agree.
But as long as there are men,
I agree.
believe that He
I agree.
intends for us to have
Yeah.
the male leadership.
If a woman's in charge, that means there's no man worthy,
Right.
in my opinion.
And in this day and age, there are plenty of men that can take it.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
and in the very, very early church, women held church in their homes. I mean, they that's one of the
Because
things
the women were the ones sensitive
to the needs of the
disciples,
people,
you know.
right?
I heard somebody say years ago that a lot of times God speaks to the wife or the female first, and then I just thought that was interesting, and I don't know that, but I have a feeling that it's true.
Well, when I was called to preach, God called me as well as him.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that he does that to his church.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But
Makes
my
sense.
calling was to help him.
Go with
Right.
Right.
Be
It's counterweight.
the counterweight.
Yeah. I think.
If you want to prove the Bible is true, and I can't find the verse, it's here in Proverbs twice, it says, there is a way that seems right to man,
Yeah. Yep.
but in the end, it's death.
Yeah, that's
So our society has all these ways that seems right to man.
Yeah.
I'll just give you an example. Now everybody's out trying to make the Washington Redskins change their name to the Fighting Okra or something.
Yeah.
You just can't offend
And
anybody.
there is one of the name Dividing Okra, isn't
Yeah.
there?
One
Wow.
school in Mississippi did that. But you know how the Washington Redskins got their name?
I don't really know.
Their first coach was an American Indian,
Okay.
and so to honor him,
Yeah.
I said, well, let's call the team the Redskins.
And it was in honor of them, not
It
in
was- it was
disgrace or
right, it was an
anything.
honor.
But you wouldn't know that on
No.
the news.
And
Yeah.
so, the only way we can be politically correct and not offend anybody is everybody become you.
Mhm.
I like that.
That's
Nobody say anything.
Because you can't,
You're pretty wise.
Yeah.
can't
That's
say anything.
that's right.
And if the fellow says, I'm going to tell you something about a problem I had, and I said, go ahead. Let's put you in line with everybody else who's already told me what to do. And so it didn't offend me on what he said because I'd already heard worse things than what he said about me.
Mhm.
But I can't control what other people think or say about me. My job is to make sure I do not deliberately set out
To offend
to
someone.
offend or hurt somebody. Everybody's going to accidentally.
Yeah.
But say I almost had a wreck twice this week of people thinking subconsciously I got to turn left into this driveway because I had good brakes on my car. I didn't hit either one of them because they were thinking, no, I could have had a fit and told them how to drive, give them sign language and all that.
Sign language. Thank you.
But it wouldn't have solved any problem.
Right.
And so we have to look at the role of different genders to see which one can do best in this situation.
That's true.
It doesn't mean that one lords it over the other.
We're different. It's not we're better.
Different.
We're just different. It's like an apple and an orange. They're different.
Let's look at the next part. For their dedication to family. I'm afraid to read this.
Are you?
Do you have it?
No. Where is
Mark, 31, chapter 31,
chapter 31? What?
verses 21 through 29.
All right. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen and selleth it. The delivereth is that right? Girdles unto the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in the time to come. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. This is King James. You know I can't read King James very well.
Yeah, thanks for reading the other part too.
That's
Doug,
good.
keep
You went
going
too far.
further.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I should have let you read
You know,
this. It's easier.
I don't do King.
Well, I'll-
There's the
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you had that version.
Go ahead.
Okay, and Gene, you kind of you alluded to this too about the snow.
I like that.
Now,
It's
again,
different.
I see this as a type of woman in the household here that's just doing her, please forgive me, but her daily routine, not cognizant of what she's doing. It's just what she
Doing the job.
does,
Do the job.
and it's not a big. It is a big deal, but
To
okay,
her, it is.
To her,
and it's just.
Yeah.
It's her
keeping
purpose.
everything going.
And yet,
Say your
and yet,
purpose.
it is such an important
An honor.
job and an honor, and it glorifies God in what she's doing, because she is doing, she is completing tasks, or she's doing tasks that God said back in Genesis. This is what I want you to do. You are a helpmate, and helpmates, by definition, are doing all these things, and these are the very things in these two parts here where our modern day feminism hates. Okay, they don't like this because to them, they make statements that it degrades women, it makes women look lower, less than, and all those things that they use to convince women that they are in a submissive role and they should be equal level with males. And as we just talked about, we are equal as far as value. Very good, thank you. There you go. We have a different
We're
job.
just different.
And you know what?
Yeah, different job,
And-
no matter how routine it is.
And having said
It's
that,
important.
is it any different in any organization where there is a hierarchy of individuals that have to be in charge, like you said? Someone has to be
There has
up
to be
here.
some
Right.
order.
Even in the military,
Yeah.
there's people who fly the planes and there's people who are support for those people who
Yeah.
fly the planes. You have to
And
have
if
And
they
when
would
it-
support people, they wouldn't
You have to
fly
have
the
both,
planes.
right.
You know, it's just,
Exactly.
And
it's so simple. I just,
Yeah,
I
makes
think
sense.
that each one of you ladies have told me, you know how I struggle with the mission of my life, you know, like where am I supposed to be? You know, I always want to do something bigger and better. And my dear friend Judy, she's told me, my mission is my family.
Mhm.
That's what I told you.
And that's what I'm saying, you just told me that.
It's not
But, and I
hard.
know that, it's it's the fight within me, because I want
You feel like you're
to,
supposed to do something big.
yeah, and then maybe I am one
And
day,
yeah.
but this is my season of my life,
Right.
you know.
but you
I
see
think it
all
changes.
these important women on TV and all this, and I look at them and,
They missed the
Tell you
boat.
something.
They
I
missed
have
the
to
boat.
be real.
literally,
I used to teach young men, about 30 years of age, and I said, if you knew your son was going to grow up to be president, would you do anything different than raise him? And every one of them says, sure I would. I said, how you know he's not going to be president?
Right.
so, you maybe
So,
who knows?
Mhm.
I said, maybe raise another Lottie.
George Miller.
And so,
But did you know that this is kind of, I say this every now and then, I do miss Paul Harvey. And so,
Yeah.
and one of his most famous, in my opinion, one of his famous, The Rest of the Story. Just to
Right.
tell the rest of the story. And it's about a mom. And she had died, and back during that time in our nation's history, they would, of course, not bury you for several days just to make sure you were dead. Because they put a bell. Remember that? They put a bell.
Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell, exactly.
Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the
I
Bell.
did not
Right.
realize.
Well, anyway,
That's what I've heard.
this is,
Yeah, because they
and
wake
so
up.
she was in the church or someplace on display, waiting to be buried. And then, yes, by surprise to everyone, she was alive. And so she came to, for whatever reason, and went on to be the mother of Robert E. Lee.
Robert E. Lee.
Wow.
Mhm.
So
I remember
there would not be a Robert E.
Sure.
Lee.
Yeah.
That is,
And so that just right there is, to me, it's like, well,
God could have raised her up though, and for that point, you never know. Okay. Go
so anyway, again, this is women just doing what they do, supplementing the family, it's like, so long as the male knows that, well, she's doing what she's supposed to be doing in this day and age, it's like running kids all over the world in minivans and taking care of business. And I think they're busier today than they have ever been. And my heart goes out to young moms because I see them and they're just like so busy.
Struggling.
I think all of us thought that we were busy during our time, but moms this day and age seem to be busier than ever.
Well, it's slow. It's like years ago, even 30 years ago. Is the time was slow. The pace was so much slower.
Slower.
but
Now
you make choices.
you do make
If
choices.
you choose to let every child be involved in every sport all year long, and you
You're gonna
choose to
run
be
ragged.
involved, you can choose to not do things that will help you have more time for family, whatever. Sometimes our busyness.
That's what Satan wants us to do.
If we're not careful, we can use our busyness to get people sick. Oh, you are so busy. I just feel so sorry
Yeah.
for you, and that can do our ego. And we really need to watch that.
Yep.
And we've all got 24 hours. You just decide what you're going to put in.
What you gonna do with it? Right.
Like I remember always, people say, well, I just don't have time for that.
Mhm.
And guys said, we'd tell them, that's because it's not how your priority is.
Right. It's not
You
intentional.
have time to do anything that
Uh-huh.
you really.
It has to be
You
intentional.
choose not to make it.
Thing I used to
Follow that
tell clients, I
intentionality.
don't know why I said he couldn't pass college algebra. He had to get a degree and flunked it 3 times. I said, if I write you a check for $10,000, if you pass college algebra this semester, you think you can pass it? Well, sure I can. I said, if you pass it, your scholarship is gone. I said, we're just arguing about the price,
Yeah, right. Right.
Good point.
That's very,
you know, but he flunked 1 semester because he wrecked his truck, and so he skipped school a week to watch them repair it. Real maturity.
That's pretty
You probably
good.
should have done that.
Okay, last part. For their devotion to the Lord. For whose devotion to the Lord, my question is?
is it time almost to
No, not yet. We got
Okay,
about
okay.
5 minutes.
read it again?
For their devotion to the Lord. Whose devotion?
I
The
missed the whole
mothers.
thing.
For their
Oh,
devotion.
okay.
The
But
mothers.
their dedication.
The moms, right?
Right,
What
right.
what verse are you in?
It's 31, 30,
Okay.
and 31. I think someone already read it.
Yeah, thanks.
Charm is deceptive, is what this
Favor
book
is
says.
deceitful is what this
And-
says.
Okay, the book says here, charm is
Okay.
deceptive, and beauty is fleeting. Ladies, want to hear that? But a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. Give her the reward of her labor, and let her works praise her at the city gates.
There you go. There you go.
Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting. But yet,
In other words, don't seek praise, just let other people praise if they want to.
there you go.
Want
There
to,
you go.
you know,
Like,
do your thing.
do
Yeah,
your
just do
thing.
your-
That's
do
modern
your
language.
thing.
Do your thing, and we all understand that and what
Uh-huh.
that means. And don't go looking for praise, and don't go looking for recognition. It will come. It will come. And it, in this verse 30, though, you know, it says, at least in the book here, it says, charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting. And that's understandable. We get older, and that's, you know, and that's referring to females. How would you want to state that for males? Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting. Okay, that's talking about females. Okay, as we get older, you know, it's natural for our appearance to not as be as it once was.
We're in our 20s.
Help me.
Where people,
So-
where
Okay.
things start hanging, is
So
that
what
what you're
about guys?
saying?
What about guys? As we get older, what can we say?
Well,
We get more. Do we get?
What do men value? You need a couple of things that men really value. In verse 30. And that decreases
Right.
with the years.
Mhm. But if she fears the Lord, she'll be praised.
can-
That's the lasting part.
Yeah.
Not the
Yeah.
charm or
Yeah.
the beauty.
Yeah, because I see.
I don't come up to me for men, but if you want to meet some miserable women, you meet women who use their beauty to manipulate men,
Right.
and when they get about 50, the men decide there are younger people around, and so they have nothing to do with them anymore. I work with one. I'm living around one that I just said happening through time. That I feel sorry for them because they realize they've been used when they thought they were controlling the men.
Mhm.
They thought they were valued.
Yeah. Right.
There's,
Very
so
different.
there is something to that. Growing older gracefully, do you like that?
Well, the older I get, the better I like Paul's verse where he says, the outer man perishes, but the inner man is renewed day by day.
Uh-huh.
And I had to get me a pencil and paper this week and make me a list because I knew I'd forget them of about 6 things that God has shown me just in the last couple of weeks. And I thought, slow down, I've got to write this down. You know, the inner man can be renewed day by day.
Right.
The outer man perishes, and mine perishes real fast.
I like
You have to come back to define beauty. When you're around a person, what makes them beautiful to you?
True.
Is it their appearance or their attitude? And they see the needs of other people, and they're kind, gentle, and not selfish.
Yeah.
And so
All those
that's
things.
true at any age,
That's true.
because you can meet some of the sweetest great grandmas you'll ever meet in the world.
Yeah.
And when you leave, you think, you may not say it, but you say, that's a beautiful old woman.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, derogatory when you say an old woman, but
Right.
there's,
When I think of
You
old, I
just
think
think-
of wise.
you just think,
Mm, me
when I
too.
grow,
Don't.
when I get
I
that
know.
age, I hope I'm like
Don't.
that.
Well, some old people aren't wise,
That's,
but
that's my point.
yeah, right. I
You gotta be
understand.
careful with that.
But yeah, you know,
Old doesn't make you wise.
right. You're right. It doesn't.
We need to turn that off.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Have a
Bye,
good
go.
day.
everybody.
Have a safe trip, you guys.
You guys be safe.
See if learning has occurred.
Is he teaching next
Okay,
week?
could they see
Oh, for
us?
crying out loud.
For crying out
Yes,
loud.
I know that. Okay.
On his phone.
Is Dr.
Did you
Mark
get it?
teaching next week?
Go up to the left-hand corner and get rid of that.
Alright,
Oh, you got it again.
just double tap it.
Is it, that's already.
Yeah, click that.
Which one are you doing? You doing the right side? Do the right side, not the left side.
I'm doing the right side.
I meant the other left side. I mean, do the opposite. The left side is what I'm getting at. I'm sorry.
The computer is the only thing in our house that he has.
We need to just
Right there.
help him.